when they came out of that Sphinx. The
Yes.
Sphinx mouth opened up and there's green lasers. I was like, just talking about it right now, I have goosebumps.
It was lightning in a bottle, and they never captured that again.
Bands do not have 7 singles. That's like Michael Jackson shit.
You're like, God damn it, get back on the cocaine and put out another Draw the Line.
Drugs to the left, hookers to the right.
Yeah, it's face melting.
I've had some experiences in porta potties at some concerts that were kind of weird.
Where it's like, hey, we're right out of the gutter. Here we are. Take it or leave it.
Because I'm a sissy. Fucking love ballads.
It's fucking floaters left in the toilet. 3 days later, you're like, what's the shit?
And like you said, like that first album came right out of the gutter. Like I wanted them to stay in the gutter. No offense.
No, I get what you're saying. You don't have taste. I get that.
But Ridley was so good because we went for a run today, and she finally waited to take a shit on one of the public streets and not in somebody's yard.
I'm putting Keel on my list. Whoever thinks about Keel. And Metal Mike went, I do. I think about them every day.
So you can find him on Stationhead, and you can also find him on OnlyFans, and it's only $9.99 a month.
He wanted it because of his big ripping muscles and his pecs.
And I was like, that's a sexy dude,
You fucking cornballs. Cut the shit.
The 80s were a crazy time.
Damn, we have so much interesting stuff to say.
That's right. Look, I came here to do 2 things. Chew bubblegum and talk hair metal. And it looks like I'm almost out of bubblegum. Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru, and I'm laughing because Bryan and I were just talking some shit before we got in here. Anyway, it's none of your business, but trust me, it was funny. We have an epic year in the history of hair metal that we are going to be talking about today. It's 1987. Just got through with some of the biggest years. We did, we've gone down from 93 to 95 all the way to 87, and you are going to have some of the heaviest hitters of the hair metal genre. So with that, Bryan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm a regular here.
Yes, he is. He's
like a regular guest
star.
Special guest.
Star. So Bryan, I know you want to tell everybody where your shit is, so
I definitely do. All right, so catch me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at HB Basement. Always talking music there. Also got my show every Friday on Stationhead. Download the app, put in Hairband Basement. You can listen to the deepest of tracks, the rarest of bands, and the little-known songs by the biggest named artists. I'm there every Friday. It's 2-ish hours of amateur DJ time. But yeah, if you don't want to hear the same old tired songs by these fantastic bands, or maybe some bands you haven't heard from in a while or never knew about, tune in on Fridays.
Hey, so you can find him on Stationhead, and you can also find him on OnlyFans, and it's only $9.99 a month. And I'm talking primo content over here. So
listen to him; he's my biggest payer. So biggest customer right there.
I'm going broke, but man, it's worth it so far.
That's right. So. Why he does this show, to be able to afford his addiction to my channel.
So speaking of being able to afford shit, would love it if you subscribe, comment. You have the option to become a member. Which does cost a little bit of money, but I promise whatever money I make from doing this on YouTube, I just want to use it to make more quality content because I love doing this, love chatting with Bryan and Ryan and Metal Mike and all the other guys. So really, I just appreciate anybody who takes the time to watch. Before we get going, something that I framed a while back, but it's been hanging in my kitchen, so I haven't shown it yet. There's so much. I don't know if I could ever show you everything that is framed in my house, but this is from 1988, and I don't know if you guys can read that okay, but it's an ad from Billboard magazine for when every rose has every rose has its thorn.
Edit that out.
Yes, the Guru can read. Went number 1. So this is from 88. It's kind of a cool. I'm a big Poison fan. Love that album. So some vintage Poison for all of my fans or whatever it is, people that watch the show. Do we have fans? You might have fans.
I don't know. I got better things to worry about.
You got fans?
I'm always wondering, do these guys in these bands have as much shit in their walls as you do? Like this, does Tom Kiefer walk into his house and he's just got Cinderella shit everywhere? Hey, this is when Don't Know What You Got made it to number 10. Or
you know who I bet does? I bet the guys who who maybe did well for a while, but then, their band disappeared, and you kind of want to remember those good times. I don't know, but I'm
I
sure.
can see. No, I might have something hanging up, like a
Yeah,
gold record and maybe some kind of ad or
I
something or
I bet a lot
album
of them
cover.
do. I mean, when you see like interviews with like professional football players and shit, they all got like tons of footballs and
Oh
trophies
yeah,
all over.
the
So
Theismann Trophy and all that shit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so me and you have bass guitars, and I got pictures of Cinderella and Poison and Warrant. So
But not for nothing. Like, look, these walls are nothing's there. I was thinking about
yeah,
that like a couple of days ago. Like, I gotta put because I found a bunch of posters of all this,
it,
for these bands. I'm like, I gotta cover this. This looks stupid. Like I'm
it does
some
look
lonely
stupid.
apartment. It just
It,
looks. No,
so
that's my
so
face. That's
here,
that's me blocking the stupid. It looks
I'm gonna say
stupid.
this right here because I want all the viewers. I want you to send me your address, and I'm gonna mail you some shit that I have if you're up for it. Like if your wife will let you put it on the house or put it on
Well,
your thing.
yeah. Well, this is like my office,
Yeah.
so that's fine. I can't put it behind the TVs
So
in our
gonna be a
bedroom.
it's gonna be a surprise, but I've already like had my eye on a couple things, and legitimately, I want to do that because I really appreciate shit. What look at you and I are having this big love fest, but I
Yeah,
want
what
to
the
send
fuck,
you
ass?
some.
I'll cut this shit, fuckface. Let's get back to the show.
So I will send you some shit because I appreciate all you do for the channel, and
Cool.
so we'll do that. All right.
All right.
With that, we each have 10 albums from 1987. Let's get rolling. Brian, what's your number 10?
Well, I'm going to say with this year, we're going to cover them, but 5 big albums that really made this genre become big. 86 had a couple. Poison, hint, hint, Cinderella, and Bon Jovi kind of opened up the doors for the.
Yep.
But this year, there was 5 albums that really made this thing big,
Yep.
which I think helped the whole deluge of albums in 88, 80, sorry, what year around here? 88, 89, 90, 91. But I were able to get to. I struggled with this. We had this conversation. I struggled to get 10 because I just want to fill out the list with some shit that happened to come out.
Yep.
So some of these albums I just recently listened to again to get refresh my memory on.
Yep.
But my number 10 is the self-titled album by Keel. And a few of the songs, I remember Cherry Lane, but this whole album just kicks ass. I listened to a couple days ago. Like I said, refresh my memory. United Nations, Cherry Lane. I said the wrong thing to the right girl. If love is a crime, I want to be convicted. 4th of July. This is a kick-ass album, and I completely forgot about it till I started looking up. It's got to be more 87. Came across this, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot about this. And yeah, good stuff by these guys.
Now I can't remember if it was Bon Jovi, but I know that Keel got a huge tour when they were at the beginning of their career. Whether it was I don't know if it was whoever it was, they were on with a huge band, but for some reason they could just never get over the hump. The Right to Rock was a fairly, I mean, got some play at rock radio. I don't know if it was huge, but you heard that, and people were shit. And now I don't know what magazine, but one of the magazines, every year they would do the end of the year, vote for the best band. Well,
Yeah.
Keel, for one of those big rock magazines, won best new band, and or whatever year it was when they first started.
Thinking like
85, I think, is when they first started.
Yeah.
So anyway, a lot of people were talking about them, but they just never got over the hump, and slowly. So now, I can't remember the songs that are on that album, but I mean, most people know of Keel and have some sort of history with Keel. So yeah.
But yeah, like the song Cherry Lane, it's a very poppy sounding song. When I was listening to the album again, and that one I kind of remembered, and I'm listening to it going, this sounds like the beginning of the opening credits to like some kind of high school comedy fucking movie from the 80, 87, 88 kind of thing. It's got that pop sound to it.
Yep.
But I remember listening to Metal Mike's, one of his shows, maybe a year ago. I forgot who he had on. I don't remember the guy's name, and what the list was. One on his list was Keel. Yep. And he says, I'm putting Keel on my list. Whoever thinks about Keel. And Metal Mike went, I do. I think about them every day.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
It's nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is again an album I forgot. Kick-ass album. How they weren't bigger, like you said. Yeah,
Right.
Metal Gods didn't look down on them favorably.
Yep. But Ron Keel still is involved in music.
Yep.
He shit when I showed that Cold Sweat CD, like it's from Ron Keel
Yeah.
Entertainment. So I mean, I think that's a guy who has like a good work ethic. He still is out playing shows, so anyway, salute Ron Keel for being a player in rock and roll. So now on to my 10, and I'll reiterate what you said. When you start getting into these lower years, like, yeah, you have the big heavy hitters, but I found myself having to go listen to albums because it's not just, hey, there's an easy 20, 10 for each of us.
Yeah.
So today today and yesterday I revisited some albums, which I'm glad I did, and I think I'm gonna fucking sneeze. Yeah, that's a good look for me. I might edit this out, but then again, I might just leave it in because it may be kind of funny. Hold on. Haktua. No, I'm just kidding. You heard of Haktua? Okay. So anyway, so I revisited some albums to get my number 10 or to get my top 10 and rediscovered some really cool shit. And I'll start with my number 10 album, and it's Kane Roberts, his self-titled album. And if you were kind of saying before, like, how do I remember that name? Well, he played guitar for Alice Cooper, and he's built like fucking Rambo, kind of like you are. Oh,
yeah.
Got the long ass hair. He's jacked up. He had like a guitar that looked like a machine gun.
Yes,
So
that's what I remember him.
Badass look. But then so he gets his own record deal. And I mean, he played with Alice Cooper. Looking at him, I'm thinking I'm going to get this fucking major rock album. And it is pop metal. Like I completely unexpected because it is like sticky sweet pop metal, but good pop metal. So some songs that I really liked: Triple X, Outlaw. There's a song called If This Is Heaven that completely, what a pop metal chorus that you won't get out of your head. I'm almost embarrassed to include it because I'm like, geez, this is poppy. Like it's something that
you wanted it because it was big ripping muscles in his pecs.
and I was like, that's a sexy dude, But to me, it's something that Ryan really likes the keyboard heavy pop stuff, House of Lords, which I really like some of that too. But this is kind of in that vein. The last song is Too Much for Anyone to Touch. He did put out another solo album a couple years later that I also liked, but these albums never did, and I know that just recently he did go back and tour a little bit with Alice Cooper when that girl guitar player of his was taking a break, but I don't know what he's done musically over the last whatever years. But guys, obviously you don't get the Alice Cooper gig in the mid 80s without being able to play. And and his solo albums are solid as well.
I like you said, when you said his name, I recognized the name. Then when you said he's the big ripped guy, looks like Rambo with a machine gun guitar, I remember the image, but I can't think of any of the songs. I have to revisit this album.
Yep.
Because it kind of reminded me. I don't remember the guy. His name was Guy Man Dude.
Oh yeah.
He had a couple albums that kind of reminds me of that. The whole gimmicky, hey, look, I'm a ripped dude. It's all man with the guitar kind of thing. But yeah, I have to revisit this album. I can't really say much because none of the songs are really hitting me. I can't remember any of them.
All right.
Old fuck.
You are an old fuck. All right. We are on to your number 9. What do you got?
All right. Another album I completely forgot about. I had to play again recently. I forgot how good this album was. It's The Cult with their album Electric. I mean, they changed the way they sounded on this one. They were more like a kind of goth rock before this. And they had Rick Rubin just change up what they sounded like. And he was like, I want the guitar to have it. The guitar from Back in Black, the drum sound from Highway to Hell, and then they want the vocals to sound like Led Zeppelin. And he completely changed, basically what The Cult sounded like, and came up with a great album. I forgot how good this fucking album was. and Wildflowers and with Little Devil and Love Removal Machine with the singles. That I love that tune actually. We have King, Contrary Man, Outlaw. I mean, this thing, like I said, I forgot how good this band was and how good this album was. But yeah, I think I'll be listening more often now than I have in the last like 30 years. It's good stuff.
So again, like we share lists because we don't want to double up on shit. But I let him have, fucking with you. I let him have the Colt because I wanted that fucking album. But I've tried to be such a nice guy, to people who need a little helping hand. So
Right, all pissy eyes here begging me to, can I have more albums, please?
but Love Removal Machine, Little Devil, holy fuck. Those songs are so, and there's a lot more. That's and then the follow-up. So yes, you're right. There's the first song that ever hit with me. I think the album is called Love. It's called
That was one before.
She Sells Sanctuary. It's
Yes.
an unbelievable song. But they were looking goth. They weren't, and then all of a sudden Rick Rubin comes in and he's like, we're gonna fucking, make you guys are gonna fit in with the times, with the rock and roll times, like you said, AC/DC. Almost kind of looked like a biker band when he came. The next album, Sonic Temple, was really great. And I'll be honest, after that, they put out a bunch of albums after that. Tried to listen to some of them. They just haven't grabbed me. But man, for a period, they were fucking huge. I think they opened up for Guns N' Roses on one of those tours around 88, 89. And they were a huge band for a while.
Yeah, and then see, I really got heard of them from what was the first single of Sonic Temple? Firewoman.
Yeah.
And till this day, I'll hear that opening guitar and it takes you right back to 1989.
Totally.
And back then, I didn't own the album, wasn't into the Cult, never had any of that stuff. But for some reason, that song, I don't know, just reminds me of that year. I remember I was in a band with the guy. He looked like Janie Lane and sounded like, and his name's escaped me, the vocalist from the Cult.
Ian Astbury.
Yes, and he was a big fan of this guy. He was constantly talking him up and talking about them.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah, I guess maybe I should check these guys out. But it was the one after, I forget the name of the album after Sonic Temple. They got shit for because they had a Native American girl on it. And it just caused all this controversy and shit. I think it came out, what, 91, 92, maybe?
Like 91. Yes.
Yeah, and after that, they just kind of just fell off the map. And they really never put anything else out that really grabbed me like these two albums. Electric Sonic Temple.
Yeah, they kind of, And okay, that album is called Ceremony.
Yes.
And I think, I mean, everybody was jacked about it because Electric, Sonic Temple were huge. Love was very big. And I feel like this is one of those bands that kind of they exploded, and now you just don't hear people talk about them anymore. And we've already beat this to there are gonna be people who say they're not a fucking hair band. They're probably, but they fit. Somebody now I'm gonna feel bad that I forget his name, but we both responded to it. Somebody said, like, look, if you like hair metal, chances are you have AC/DC and Ozzy Osbourne in your collection. Almost every hair metal fan likes that shit and likes the Cult. So whatever.
But also those bands had these hair metal bands open up for them.
Oh yeah.
Because they knew everyone liked it. If you like one, you like the other. So it wasn't like, I mean, Kiss is gonna go on tour, not have like Faster Pussycat open and go, oh no, we're not glam. No, they fucking knew that fans like both. Why not?
And people like Ozzy knew that if you wanted chicks coming to your show, you better fucking get a hair metal band opening. Okay. So, all right, here's a band that when you see the cover of this album, it screams hair metal. It's like right up there with Poison's Look What the Cat Dragged In for covers. It's Tiger Tails with Young and Crazy. And they're a Great Britain band. I don't know exactly what, but they're fucking from overseas, okay?
Wales. They're from Wales.
Wales. So I don't know where, but I remember the first time I heard of this band, I heard the song Star Attraction that is on this album. and that fucking song rips. And it took me forever because Young and Crazy is like one of those CDs or albums that was going for huge money on eBay. Like people were trying, and it was really rare. So I think it got reissued in like 2008. Now I think it's a little bit more readily available. But that song, Star Attraction, Stevie James on vocalist, he's kind of got that gruff, you know, gravelly vocals. I
Yeah, yeah.
love. Uh, Hollywood Killer, the song "Living Without You" has
I love that tune.
one of the catchiest choruses ever. The title track is great, and then there is a semi ballad called "Fall in Love Again" at the end. So Stevie James was kicked out of the band after this. I think it might have been addiction issues. I don't know. He's resurfaced in other places. Now I can't. What the fuck is the guy's name who replaced him? Anyway, they put out an album called Bonsai, an album
Yeah.
called Berserk in the early 90s, and just never quite, blew up. But man, they've done a lot of stuff over the years, never quite got over the hump, but really cool band, really cool looking band, if you like hair metal. So and start with Star Attraction. If you don't like that song, you probably won't like and Living Without You.
Yeah.
Crazy comes in at number 9.
I think I see I didn't even know about these guys till about maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And I happened to see Living Without You on YouTube.
Yep.
And I was like, shit, this is a kick-ass tune. And it's catchy. Like you said, it's catchy as all hell.
Yep.
Then, Love Bomb was the other one too. And I forget what album that one's off of.
Love Bomb Baby. I think it was on Berserk.
Yes, it might have been Berserk. So like those two were like my introduction to Tiger Tails. But
Yep.
that's like one of those bands that, like you said, did make it big. But if you bring it up on social media, it's
Yes.
people a cult following for those guys.
Yes.
I saw. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like again, on our X accounts, there's a group of guys that talk about this music. So if you want to get on there, hey, join the conversation. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and I remember it might have been around the same time. There was a video of them in concert doing "Living Without You" with this female background vocalist, and it just sounds killer.
Yeah,
just her filling out that. And I know the bassist passed away about 10 or so
I think
years.
Pepsi Tate, was that his
Yes.
name?
Yeah, Pepsi. Yep.
And then there was a dude named Jay Pepper. I'm not an expert on all of the inner work, but I know some of the shit about that band. But yeah, cool band. They put out a bunch of albums, even in the 2000s. They had some cool stuff. But I think this is their first album, and definitely a hair metal band to look out for that never quite hit it big.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's definitely a good pick.
All right,
again,
fun.
Let's get. I forgot all about them.
Yep,
I forgot
yep.
all about them.
Let's move on to your number 8. What do you got?
My number 8 is a band I almost would say I'm not a big fan of, and every time I hear one of their songs, I'm like, "Well, that's a good song. I like this song. It's a good song." And this, I think, is their best album. This is Great White's "Once Bitten." I hate the title. I hate the fact they named this "Once Bitten" and the follow-up album was "Twice Shy." It's like, come on,
right?
Dude, that's so lame. But this album, I mean, "Rock Me," "Save Your Love," those are the singles. But "Lady Red Light," "Gonna Get You," "All Over Now." I mean, there's so many good, catchy tunes on this, and it's almost a shame that they're known for just that one cover, and that was their biggest hit. They got so much good stuff. Yeah, it's a great cover too. I like the cover.
Yep.
But that and the fact that they sound like Zeppelin when they want to play Zeppelin.
Right.
I still remember, I believe it was their Unplugged, and I was in college, and they did, oh shit, what was the Zeppelin song? "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You."
Yeah.
And all of us watching this going, holy shit, he sounds just like Robert Plant. How the hell? And they usually have Zeppelin songs in their set list. But yeah, it's one of those bands where I'm not really deep into, but every time I hear them, I remember Hair Nation would constantly play them to the point where it's like, again, with Great White this hour. But yeah, this is a great album. Great. And I actually listened to it today at work, and I posted something on Twitter about it, or sorry, X, formerly known as Twitter. And people respond, their best album. I love this album. Great album. This is unbelievable band. All this shit. And it's like, Yeah, I don't think they ever got the respect, and they're constantly underrated. It's one of those below the radar type bands that were way better than the
Yep.
popularity they got, at least sales wise.
Yeah, I think they, and everybody like are big fans, know that they worship Led Zeppelin. I think they might have put out, if not an entire album, but at least an album that had some covers of Led Zeppelin.
I think
And
it's all Zeppelin
I
because
think it's all Zeppelin. Yes.
it's a cool album cover because
Yep.
it's the Zeppelin cover of the blimp blowing up, but instead of a blimp, it's a big ass great white shark.
Right.
I
Right.
forget the name of the album though.
Right. But I mean, they did have a lot of hits. Rock Me with Lady Red Light, Save Your Love and then the follow-up, Once Bitten, Twice Shy. And there were some other shit. They had a hit. I put them on my 96 to 2000 list because they had an album in 99 that had a minor hit in 99 called
Mhm.
Rollin' Stoned. And it's a
Oh yeah,
bad
yeah.
song. So I've always said like especially starting with this album, everyone knows I'm not a big blues guy. I still like this album, but they started diving more into the blues on Once Bitten and on Twice Shy. I
Mhm.
liked their earlier stuff. Their self-titled album, they were a lot more straight ahead hard rock. I mean, they kind of
Yeah.
in with like fucking Rat. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think when we get down into like 1984, their self-titled album will probably show up on my list, so I won't talk about it too much. But yeah, I was never like, oh man, I love Great White. Liked a lot of the songs I heard, but wasn't rushing out to buy the albums. But damn it, they have a lot of great songs, and they were, at least back in the day, phenomenal live, and that fucker can sing.
Yeah. Yeah, but like you said, it's one of those bands like I never really put together like,
Yep.
oh, the great band, but big fan. But then again, I can't say why I wasn't or why I'm not. The songs are good. I
I
understand.
I
I don't
I
get why I'm
think
like, you like Great White. I'm like, yeah, they're okay. And then I pop an album like this, and you're like, holy shit, this guy's kick ass.
I think Once Bitten went platinum. I think, and
Yeah.
Once Bitten, Twice Shy was a huge fucking hit.
Mm-hmm.
I think Once Bitten, Twice, or the Twice Shy album, I think that went double platinum. So I think those are the only two times that they certified over 1 million copies. But yeah, really cool band. And I know, like, I've had a lot of people in the comments go, dude, you need to cover Great White. That's a fucking great. And I'm like, I know, you're right. You're right. We
Yeah,
so
totally.
yeah. All right, let's move on to my number 8. Um, the Godfather of shock rock makes an appearance in 1987. This guy was so huge in the 70s, but if you ever see pictures of him by the late 70s and the early 80s, he looks like he's going to die. He looks like
Mm-hmm.
he weighs about 80 pounds. And I know, like, he had quit drinking, and then hey, instead of drinking, how about you start cocaine? And then when you start cocaine, how about you switch to crack cocaine? Well, that's a recipe for disaster. But
A
anyway,
smart move.
Alice Cooper made a huge comeback by the mid 80s. So this album is Raise Your Fist and Yell from 87. I think the album Constrictor had come out in 86. That's when he really kind of, and when he came back, it was like, I'm not gonna, he was working with Kane Roberts, who we already talked about, was his guitar player. And Kane Roberts was the one who said, look, we got this new rock sound that is coming out in the 80s. Don't come out and try to be 70s Alice. He goes, all these bands were inspired by you. You can come in and do basically hair metal. So this is Alice starting to like go, okay, I can fit in with what these other bands are doing. Obviously it finally got huge when he released Trash in 89.
Yeah.
But Raise Your Fist and Yell, it got to number 73 on Billboard, but the tours were huge. Kane Roberts was his guitar player. Do you know who was his bass player? Kip
Was it
Winger.
Kip Winger? Yeah, Kip Winger.
Kip
Yeah.
Winger. Paul Taylor was his keyboard player.
Mm-hmm.
Check out the song Freedom was a single. Give the Radio Back was a minor hit, I remember hearing. And then Prince of Darkness and Time to Kill. So these albums were really just like saying, hey, Alice Cooper is back. He was fucked up for a long time. And then, finally each album he kept doing a little bit better and then trash explodes. But you gotta give Alice is still releasing albums, still touring. The dude's like 75 fucking years old.
I
So
know.
I salute him.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and the guy is just an icon in metal at this
Oh,
point. You know?
totally.
And for him to completely change his sound to keep up with the times and have to sober up at the same time.
Right.
I mean, that alone in itself is just an accomplishment to still be relevant. I mean,
Oh,
like Kiss, was one that did the Ozzy's another one. You got another band later on your list that kind of
yep.
almost had a resurgence later in the
Yeah.
80s where they came back and became not as big, even bigger than they were before.
Right. Right. And it's too bad we haven't had that in later, like there was a period in the 80s where fucking these guys from the 70s suddenly, after going nowhere for just exploded. And
Mhm.
it was a really fun time in rock. So
Yeah. Did you ever see Alice Cooper live?
yeah, a few times. Not, probably I saw him in the mid 90s. And in fact, he was on CMC, the label that had like Warrant and shit. So
Yeah.
Alice Cooper, Slaughter, Warrant, and shit, one other Slaughter, Warrant, and any one other 80s hair metal band, but it
Drawing
was
a blank on it.
pretty kick ass. And
Yeah.
I saw him open up for fucking Motley Crue a few years back, and he's awesome live. His boy, he's not singing all high. It's like it's got a lower register voice, so it works.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about trying to hit high notes and shit.
Yeah. The band doesn't have to tune down a whole step to kind of
Right.
match the voice. Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
Motley Crue's got to do now.
Oh
Exactly.
god. Ugh. Well,
So,
then again, a lot of their songs were tuned down already when they were recorded. So
right.
I don't know what
But
Vince is
there were
doing.
some times where Vince was stretching even back in the 80s to hit
Mhm.
some of those notes. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, now it's just become a running joke with what he's doing on stage, where it's just like
I
the videos of people putting in what it's kind of sounds like and make up these weird, crazy lyrics and everything. Yeah.
so we just got done with Alice Cooper. That was my number 8. We're on to your number 7. What do you
Oh
got?
shit, we're only on 7. Well, it's gonna be a long fucking episode, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, we thought the last one was going to be all short. It was an hour and 46 minutes.
Doesn't
You're like,
make
man, we're cruising right along.
I know. I know. Oh wow, we're a whopping 3 minutes shorter than the last episode. Ah, damn. We have so much interesting stuff to say.
That's right. That's right.
At least I do. But all right. So my number 7, my number 7 is TNT's "Tell No Tales," and I mean the singles "10,000 Lovers in One," "Everyone's a Star." I thought "As Far as the Eye Can See" was a single, but I couldn't find anywhere that said that. I mean, that's a great tune. "Listen to Your Heart," "Desperate Night," and Tony Harnell's voice, unbelievable. I mean, talking about vocalists, the guy can belt out a
Yeah.
tune. It's unreal. But yeah, I remember getting this from the mall, because I'm an old fuck, and listening to it on my Walkman because I'm an old fuck in the backseat of my father's car, just going, holy shit, because it starts with everyone's a star and just hits you in the face and just wow, god damn. But yeah, this one I've liked since it came out. A great band, another band. Who knows why they weren't bigger? They had this talent, they had the songs. Not
This
the luck,
is
I guess.
this is one of those bands that I just never could get into. I don't
Really?
know why. And a lot of people have talked them up. And I'll just like Everyone's a Star and 10,000 Lovers in One. I just can't get. And part of so people know I like gritty vocalists. I do like some vocalists who have clean vocals. Danny Vaughn has a
Mhm.
clean, but for some reason, some of these, like, I don't know, Tony Harnell, when I hear those songs, part of what I don't like about it is his vocals. And he's obviously a great singer, but it just doesn't connect with me. And those songs have just never grabbed me. So I've never,
Okay.
they're the big hits. So I've never felt the need to explore any further. Maybe I should, but there's just some people with great vocals that just never, get you. And
Yeah.
some people with vocals who some guys would be like, dude, Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh, I love that shit, you know, like greasy, grimy, gritty, gravel eating vocals. And I'm like, yeah, man, that rules. So
Yeah.
anyway,
No, I get what you're saying. You don't have taste. I get that.
yeah. All right. We are on to my number 7. Well, this was a guy who was in one of the biggest bands in the world at that time, at this time, when he came out with a solo album. So I'm talking about Sammy Hagar. So he, has a pretty decent, pretty good sized solo career, has a bunch of hits, Can't Drive 55, Your Love Is Driving Me Crazy, all this shit. Well, then David Lee Roth gets kicked out of Van Halen and signs up with
Depends who
Van
you talk to.
Halen and shit, they blow up, but he owed an album to his old record label to release him from his record label. So he puts out this I Never Said Goodbye. And there are some huge fucking songs on this, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. So it went to number 14 on Billboard. It went gold. So Give to Live was a big hit. And I think, and I was reading on Wikipedia, if you can trust the almighty Wikipedia, that Van Halen played that live.
It's on their live album.
Yes.
That and Where Eagles Fly.
And that is also on this album. I
Mhm.
love Where Eagles Fly. Shit, didn't I think Van Halen might have played I Can't Drive 55 every now and then too. Just to
They
get
also did because oh shit, what's the name of the album with Sammy? Right Here, Right Now, Live.
Yep.
They do Where Eagles Fly, Give to Live, and a killer version of One Way to Rock.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
god,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
so
One Way
unbelievably
to
good.
Rock. I love
Yeah.
that song.
And
So
with Eddie and Sammy, switching off on guitar solos. I
Yep.
mean, it's Eddie Van Halen. He makes everything tastier with his guitar. So,
right,
oh,
right.
I love it way better than the original. It's so kick ass.
But Sammy, is apparently I'm no guitar player, but apparently a pretty decent guitar
Yeah,
player.
he could play.
He was always playing during his shows. Anyway, there's a couple other songs, When the Hammer Falls and Boys Night Out, but Give to Live and Eagles Fly, the two hits are worth the price of admission alone. I still, when I hear Eagles Fly, it's not necessarily a ballad because it gets kind of mid-tempo,
Mhm.
but I don't know, it just gives me goosebumps. So I've always been a fan of Sammy solo and Sammy with Van Halen. So that's my number 7.
And Sammy with Chicken Foot, and he's been all
I
over
don't
the place.
I don't know
He's,
that I ever got into Chicken Foot. I think I listened to some songs, but did you get into it or?
yeah, it's pretty good
Okay.
stuff. I mean,
Okay.
it's a what's what I'm looking for? A super group basically.
Yeah.
You know, he also sang with Montrose, which is good
Right.
stuff.
Started
I
with
saw
Montrose.
him live a few years ago when he was celebrating his 40th anniversary being in music. So he played stuff from Van Halen, Montrose, Chicken Foot, solo stuff, and a butt ton of Led Zeppelin stuff. Because he's like, I grew up on this stuff. I love this band. So that was a really good show. And talk about a guy who can still sing for his age. The guy's voice is unbelievably good for his age. Anytime. I don't think he's lost a step in his voice. Unreal.
I was just gonna say that I've seen him solo a couple times in the 2000s, and each time I was like, "You got to be shitting me!" I mean, he is
Yeah.
hitting every fucking note, and I mean, it's not all down tuned. And now the dude's in his mid 70s, and he does a lot of shit on YouTube. Still sounds phenomenal. So
Yeah, and he looks like he's 30 years younger. I don't understand what he's
yeah,
doing. I don't understand what he's doing. How did he find the fountain of youth or some shit? It's
yeah,
unbelievable.
he looks way younger than you do.
Oh yeah, he does. But both of us combined aren't even close to him. Not even close. All right,
Speak for
whatever helps
yourself.
you sleep, bro. Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Exactly.
All
All right,
right,
on to your number 6.
my number 6, you threw a hissy fit over because I put it on my list before you can get it. But it's Faster Pussycat's debut self-titled album. I mean, this is like you said, we were talking about earlier. It's a sleaze masterpiece.
Yes.
Unbelievable stuff. I think Bath and Mole was the only single. I don't know if there was another one.
No,
That I don't know.
there's more. Keep going.
But I'm saying, I love the groove of that tune. That's just a great beginning of that tune. Don't Change That Song, Cat House, Putting You Down, Smash Alley. I mean, top to bottom, this is a great album.
Yes.
Not a bad song on it.
Now I thought, and maybe I'm wrong, but we'll hear. I thought "Don't Change That Song" was a single, but maybe I'm wrong.
I
But
thought it was too, but I can't find anything else. I can't think of
yeah,
anything else that's like officially saying that it
uh,
was Bathroom Wall.
but I'm looking at the song list right now. "Don't Change That Song," "Bathroom Wall," "Cat House," and "Babylon." All four of those songs are fucking sleaze metal gold in my book.
Mm-hmm. What's the
And
one with Ricky Rackman playing? He's doing the scratching on it. Is that
Babylon.
Babylon? Yeah, yeah. I think that
Pussy,
whole setup
pussy,
itself is fucked
pussycat.
up. Yeah, it's messed up that you have Tammy Down and Ricky Rackman friends. They live together. They opened up a club just to meet girls, and then all of a sudden, Faster Pussycat explodes, becomes a pretty popular band, and Ricky Rackman's the host of Headbangers Ball. Like, what are
Yeah,
the chances of that even fucking happening?
yeah,
Which is
yeah.
just crazy.
Yep. Um, and so I really like their follow-up "Wake Me When It's Over." But I was disappointed that they bailed on not completely bailed, but I liked that simple "Cat House," "Babylon," "Don't Change That Song." I didn't feel like you got much. I felt like they tried to grow on the second album. Ooh, confetti.
Yeah,
And
celebrate
and
growth.
so while I liked that album and I loved the ballad "House of Pain," I didn't feel like there were as many rock songs that I really could get behind as I did on the first one from '87.
Yeah, and I think it also has a more raw sound to
Yeah.
it, where it's like, hey, we're right out of the gutter. Here we are, take it
Yeah.
or leave it kind of thing. But
And
yeah, it's such a good album. That first album,
and I
I
want
like their first three. I'm not
no,
gonna say
totally.
that they were bad
Totally.
albums, but yeah, that
Totally.
first one had a raw energy to it. Again, lifetime to write the songs kind of thing.
Yeah, and like you said, like that first album came right out of the gutter. Like I wanted them to stay in the gutter. No offense. So,
I get it. I totally
uh,
get it. But
and I
then
don't.
again, when you're getting success and it's not just practicing all day and making maybe enough to replace your guitar strings,
Yeah.
life changes. All right, it's this fucking dog. Let's go.
Hey, Ridley. Ridley wants to
Hey,
say hi.
damn
Yeah.
Riley Ridley. God damn it, I can't remember this dog's name.
But Ridley was so good because we went for a run today and she finally waited to take a shit on one of the public streets and not in somebody's yard. So good girl. Yeah, you got a treat for that, didn't you? So yeah. Uh yeah, and I don't that first album didn't go gold. The
No,
follow-up did mainly because of House of Pain.
I thought it went platinum. Didn't it go
I'm
platinum?
pretty sure it only went gold,
Only
but
gold. Okay. All right.
I would bet on it, but you can double check. But yeah. So but I and I really like Whipped, but if I was forced to choose, the debut is my favorite Faster Pussycat album.
Ooh, that's a tough choice.
Not
I'm
not
not going to dispute it. I'm not going to
Yep.
dispute that being your favorite.
Yep.
It's a great album.
Yep. All right, we are on to my number 6. So, man, I mean, I have such a huge history with this band. But I will, so I'm going to qualify this. This is one of my favorite bands of all time. I have put more money into this fucking band than any fucking band in history. But I'm not
ABBA.
afraid to say that there are times that they have put out some absolute shit and dumb and made some dumb fucking decisions. I'm talking about Kiss, okay? And I'm a card carrying member of the Kiss Army. And in '87, they come out with Crazy Nights. Now, Crazy Nights, I think is a lot of people are divided on it. There are people that love the album Crazy Nights, but then there are some hardcore fans who shit on it. And I'm kind of in the middle. There is, in my opinion, a lot of filler on this album, but there's about 4 or 5 songs that really, well, make it good enough to come in at number 6. So uh, part of the problem is they brought now I can't it's oh yeah, his name is Ron Nevison. He's a big producer. If you remember in '85, Heart put out an album that blew up, went to like number 1. full of a lot of keyboards, a lot, some ballads and shit. And so all of a sudden, everybody's like, shit, let's get Ron Nevison to give us this kick-ass 80s rock sound. We'll go to number one. Kiss fell next in line. Ron Nevison produces Crazy Nights. It's really keyboard heavy.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it went platinum. It went to number 18. And for Kiss, going platinum in the 80s was about what you were hoping for. They never went double platinum, but they had a string of platinum albums. The title track I still love. Crazy Nights. I love that chorus. It's a solid song. I really like the ballad Reason to Live. It's kind of an anti-suicide song. Gene has a really cool song with Good Girl Gone Bad. And then I really like Paul's Turn on the Night. A lot of these songs would have been so much better if there weren't so much keyboards on it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Turn on the Night. It is a good song. It was a single. And then you got one of the epic song titles in 80s rock history with Paul Stanley's Bang Bang You. I wonder what that's about. So the 80s were a crazy time. Man, some of these song titles are just fucking, Tiger Tails had a song called Sick Sex,
Like it's just like nobody sits there and says, "Nah, change that. It's stupid. Change the name."
Yeah.
Nobody. Yeah. I guess everyone was just doing lines of cocaine, like, yeah, 6 seconds. That's like great. Put that on
Bang
there.
Bang You sounds good.
Bang Bang You. How did we not have that on the album? Like, come on.
When Metal Mike and I were talking about Let's Get Rocked because we were talking about hair metal songs that we hate. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about the lyrics. Oh, mow the lawn, walk the dog. That's a fucking.
No, the worst lyric is, I suppose a rock is out of the question.
Yes.
You fucking cornballs. Cut the shit. God damn. But is that the album with is the song Hide Your Heart?
Nope.
On it? Which album is that on?
It was the 89 album Hot in the
Shade. That's Hot in the Shade. Okay. But Crazy Nights is a good tune.
Yeah.
It's got that that epic, arena rock kind of vibe to it. Yeah, that's a good one.
Totally.
That's the same lineup for Hot in the Shade, right?
Yep. Bruce Kulick, Eric Carr on drums, Gene and Paul.
That's a pretty good lineup they had for a while.
Oh, Eric Carr was a great fucking drummer.
Yes, he was.
And Bruce Kulick, especially when you got to the Revenge album, then he really kind of was allowed to cut loose a little bit more. They didn't have keyboards on it. They weren't trying to, just be 80s simple rock. So I thought that was the album where you're like, holy fuck, Bruce Kulick can really play. So it was a solid lineup. That was the first major show that I ever saw was Kiss on the Hot in the Shade tour. And it was like a religious experience. I was like, holy fuck. Do you remember when they came out of that Sphinx?
Yes.
Sphinx mouth opened up and there's green lasers. I was like, just talking about it right now, I have goosebumps. I was like, holy shit. Because the only concert I'd seen before that was REO Speedwagon with Richard Marx. And I really like REO Speedwagon. But that doesn't prepare you for Kiss. So
no, it's on the same level now. No. Because that was my first show too. And I actually, it's about a year and a half ago or so, I was on Metal Mike's show talking about the top 10 best concerts we saw. Yeah. And that was on there because it was my first show. Yeah. And I told the story of Kiss's, doing the thing that Kiss does. And my friend Tony taps me on the shoulder and goes, look over there. And you look up because I saw him at Nassau Coliseum. So there's kind of seats behind the stage where they really didn't sell because you wouldn't see anything. And like at the all the way in the back row, some guy's got a girl on top of him. He's just going at it with this girl. We both looked up like, I guess, that's a Kiss show for you. I guess that's what it's like, getting laid, behind the stage. They didn't give a shit. They didn't care. Well, the Kiss is on. Who cares?
I've had some experiences in porta potties at some concerts that were kind of weird, but anyway, let's not go into that. Yeah,
let's move on from that.
Hey, yeah, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. All right.
Yeah, I dropped my wallet once, and
but good for that guy. Hey, whatever.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Kiss comes in at number 6. Not my favorite Kiss album. many Kiss albums I love more, but a good solid 4 to 5 songs that I genuinely really like. So that's my number 6.
Yeah, Kiss, another one of those bands from the '70s trying to find their way and find their
Right.
place in late '80s.
Yep.
I think they
Yep.
did a pretty good job at it.
Yeah, and they did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your number 5.
My number 5. It's easily my most favorite Dokken album. It is Back for the Attack. This is the album that got me into Dokken. I saw Burning Like a Flame on Headbangers Ball, and I was like, that song is catchy as hell. I got to get this album.
Yeah.
And I still love that song. It's still one of my favorite Dokken songs. Dream Warriors was one of the singles. I mean, that's big from Nightmare on Elm Street, Heaven Sent, Prisoner, and So Many Tears with the singles. Kiss of Death is still a kick-ass song. That made my openers when we did that show a while back. Night by Night's a good one. Sleepless Night. I mean, great album. I didn't put it on my list, but the instrumental Mr. Scary, that's just that's iconic, especially for a guitarist. So yeah, this album is just great.
Did you just list like every fucking song on the
I
album?
pretty much, I think I did. I think about it.
Pretty much.
I don't know what I missed. I just love this fucking album. It's, again, like I said, my favorite Dokken album. And I know you're gonna say, well, Under Lock and Key's your favorite, which I totally respect that too.
Yeah.
I mean, they had kick-ass albums, but this is the album that I love, but it's also the album that drove them apart and ended the band.
Yep.
They were done after this. They were just
they were. This was the last album, right? Before and then Don goes on to do Up From the Ashes. But this
they put out a live album in '89, I believe it was 88, 89.
I think it was 88.
That had the single, it was 88, and it had Walk Away. That was a new song, but the rest, it's all live stuff. Beast from the East it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that was it. George Lynch was never played with, I think he played him with once or twice. they did some kind of tour or something.
Yeah. Yep.
That was it. They were done.
The guitar riff from Kiss of Death, holy shit.
Yeah, it's face melting.
Oh, totally.
Easily.
Well, obviously something happened to your face because I don't know what the fuck. So this is another one. This is another one that I would have had on my list, but I graciously let you have it.
Okay.
So yeah, Under Lock and Key is my favorite Dokken album, but I just listened to this when I was getting, thinking about albums and yeah, this fucking album rules. Probably my second favorite Dokken album. And I wasn't huge on Dokken back in the day. I've gotten more into Dokken probably over the last couple of years than I thought about him in the 80s, which is kind of weird, but
yeah, it happens.
Bands like that just kind of you miss for some reason and catch up with them later. So
yeah, again, Dokken's one of those bands that like everyone knows about. Everyone worships, George Lynch and his playing, but they never had that big hit that set them over the edge, and it just never happened for them. But it's not like they're an unknown band. Everyone knows Dokken.
The closest they came to a big ballad was Alone Again. And I hate to be the ballad guy, but most bands, if they were going to go double or triple platinum, they had a ballad helping them out. I mean, that's just really the way it was. All right, we're on to my number 5. I think I'm going to throw people for a loop here because I don't think people would expect this band to be at number 5. This album didn't do shit. It only went to number 179 on Billboard. It's a Canadian band. It's Helix. And their album Wild in the Streets. And I mean, they had a kind of a minor hit called Rock You, Give Me an R, which is a cool song. And you always knew what you were going to get with Helix. They were just good, straight ahead, hard rock. They weren't too poppy. They weren't too heavy. It was just right in the middle, catchy guitars. And Brian Vollmer has a really cool, gritty voice. I like that. But I think this is my favorite Helix album, and I like almost everything that Helix did. The title track, Wild in the Streets. Listen to that song first. I mean, that song is so ultra catchy. Then What You Bringin' to the Party kicks ass. Never Gonna Stop the Rock and High Voltage kicks. Now, here's where I felt, man, they should have blown up with this because they did a cover of Nazareth's Dream On, which is a ballad, but Brian Vollmer got those gritty vocals. Starts off with this kind of cool piano. And I love that ballad. I mean, I got to throw that on like another because I haven't done a ballads episode because I'm a sissy, fucking love ballads. But I
Yeah.
haven't done anything on ballads for a while. But I would put Helix's cover of Dream on a ballads video, ballads that should have been hits but weren't. And I love this album. I think Helix is a way underrated band. I don't think they ever went gold in America. I think the
Yeah.
album that had Rock You on it might have done 400,000 copies, probably the most they ever sold. But I dig that band, and that album comes in at number 5.
I totally forgot this album existed. You brought it up. And
Yep.
you're right. It's one of those bands that kind of had put out good stuff, but just not only did not make it big, but they're kind of, people forget about them.
Totally.
It's like, oh shit, that's right, Helix. I forgot they existed.
Yep.
Was the one with Rock You on it the one before this album?
I think there may have been one I think it was
In
one
between?
before this. I think there was one in between that.
Yeah, okay.
They
Because I
put
know
out a number of albums in the 80s, but
yeah. See, I'm not that familiar with Helix. I don't really know.
and right off the top of my head, like I know that I think they had an album called No Rest for the Wicked. I mean, they had a bunch, and they're all, like I said, good, solid, straight ahead rock, just never got that hit. It was like they came out when Rats and Quiet Riot were blowing up.
Hmm.
And so they weren't quite hard rock enough to fit in with those guys. And then they weren't quite hair metal enough to fit in
Yeah.
like when Poison and Bon Jovi and Cinderella they were just always that band that was stuck in nowhere land, a little
Yeah.
bit of each side, but not enough to blow up.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good way to describe it. They really didn't fit with either of those sides
Yes.
of music at the time, and they really didn't find a place.
Yes.
It's kind of,
Yep.
go ahead, comments. Helix is in here, metal. Yeah, okay. We just explained.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Hey, obviously we're concerned with looks, all right? So
Yeah, look, yeah, exactly. A couple of supermodels right here.
that's right. That's right.
By you guys view.
All right, that's my number 5. What do you got at number 4?
All right, number 4, cruising right along. Uh, like I said the last episode we did when we did 88. I thought this album came out in 88. I'm lucky enough to do this 87 to have this album on there. It's Fireworks by Bonfire.
Yep.
I love this album. I remember getting it on CD in 87. I want to say I got it based off an ad in maybe Metal Edge or Hit Parade, or might have been Metal Edge. And I was like, let me just get this. Back then you didn't give a fuck. You just spent money on whatever because you had nothing else to worry about. But I mean, oh no, also they had the single, what was it? Sleeping All Alone. I remember seeing that on Headbangers Ball. I'm like, I got to get this thing. I don't know if they had another single after that, but I mean, Ready for Reaction, Rock Me Now, American Nights, Champion, Give It a Try is a good ballad. I mean, this is one of those albums I'll pop in and play the whole thing through. I love this fucking album. It's such a good album.
It's Bonfire Fireworks. Didn't Bonfire later on do that song The Sword in the Stone?
Yes, that's
Which
them.
is a cover because Kiss almost did it. I know Paul Dean from Loverboy did that song. But that's a kick-ass song.
Yeah.
And I'm not an expert on Bonfire. I remember that song, and now I really, because I like, when you talk about it, you're like, so that gets me jacked up to hear it because I know I love that tune. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know a ton about that album, but I need to revisit it.
Yeah, they just did like was it like a 30th anniversary or remastered or something? When they do that, it doesn't sound the same.
No.
But if you get your hands on the original version, it's just kick ass. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's that kind of, I'm trying to think of something comparable. It's almost like a more hairband version of the Scorpions because they're from Germany too.
Right.
But they also did a cover of Sweet Home Alabama a few years back, which is odd because the guy has a German accent about it, so it doesn't quite fit. And it's like, you ain't from Alabama, not gonna stop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely highly recommend this album. I know I've heard Ryan talk about it too. It's such a fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. On to my number 4. Okay, now we're getting into some of the big shit. Okay. And I I feel bad. I've shit on this album a few times, but it's impossible to not include it. And and I worshipped this album when it came out. It's Hysteria by Def Leppard. And I still like it. I think a big part of the problem is it got so overplayed. There were 7 singles from this
Mhm.
album. Bands do not have 7 singles. That's like Michael Jackson shit. Okay. But Mutt Lang was the producer. He was like fucking, and Pyromania had gone over 10 times platinum. So whatever the band wanted to do on Hysteria, they were going to be allowed to do. And they recorded it for 4 fucking years. As
Yeah.
they spent a shit ton of money on it. So the so I'll just the problem is I think I got sick of it from hearing all those songs so many times, and I played the shit out of it. Now the other problem is it hasn't aged as well.
That's my
It's
issue.
not, yes, it's not as, like, I can still go listen to Pyromania and High and Dry. Those still sound good to me. But when I get Hysteria, it just sounds a little bit too overproduced, a little bit too computerized, or I'm probably not saying it right, but overproduced. So it kind of loses me. But you
It
can't,
sounds dated. I'd say
it sounds
dated.
dated.
Yeah.
But you can't deny this fucking album was a monster. And
Yeah.
like I said, worshipped it when it came out. Armageddon it, Gods of War. I still love Gods of War. Hysteria and Animal. Run Riot, really upbeat, cool song. Don't Shoot Shotgun. Those
Hmm.
weren't singles. I really love those songs. Okay, I'm not gonna mention Love Bites because Love Bites bites.
Wait,
All right.
wait. What is it? It's 10 pounds of shit in a 9 pound bag. Moving on.
That's right. And even though Pour Some Sugar on Me is definitely one of the catchiest songs of the era, just overplayed again. And went to number 1, 12 times platinum. It's one of the historic moments of the 80s. And even though it
Yeah.
hasn't aged well, you can't deny it. So it comes in at number 4. I'm sure there are going to be people who think it should be higher, but that's where I got it.
I All right, a few things on this one. First, like you said, it does sound dated. I've heard people complain about the production on it. It went too poppy. They changed their sound because some people that don't like the album said numerous things about it.
Yep.
Personally, I think there's a lot of the singles are overplayed. Some of the songs you listed, I think Run Ride is a great tune. Don't Shoot Shotgun's a good one. Animal's one of my favorite songs by Def Leppard.
Yep.
The song Hysteria, I think, is great. Love and Infection was a pretty solid song. But then the one, like most of the singles, it's just, I can't. Love
Rocket.
Bite sucks. We already, Love Bite just sucks a bag. I think Women
Yeah.
and Rocket,
Yeah.
they're practically the same song, just about different things.
Yeah.
And especially as a bassist, the bass lines are just like, they sound like Space Invaders. I think I said that before. Those just, I can skip those. Pour Some Sugar on Me, huge hit. I mean, I don't think it's a bad song, but if I never hear it again, my life would be, no different.
Right.
I know you love Gods of War. I always had an issue with hair metal bands singing about being in combat. It's like, dude, it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it,
Totally.
but then again, late '80s, for some reason, a lot of bands started talking about how bad war is. There was no real big wars going on that I had to worry about.
Everybody was afraid of nuclear war in the 80s, if you remember that, even though it never
Yes,
happened. It
and
was
a lot
always
of
like,
thrash bands would sing
get
about that.
get rid of the nukes. So when bands were getting political, there were no wars going on, but
Yeah,
that was
nothing
something
major.
that you could talk about to be political. Put away the nukes, make love, not war.
Yeah, and that never really worked for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've said this before. In '87, you had 5 huge hair metal albums that really exploded and made the genre as big as it was, and this is one of them easily. Yeah, it's the elephant in the room. How do you talk about 1987 and not talk about a 12-time platinum album? Which,
Right.
I mean, like you said, there were singles still being released a year or two after this album came out. It was
Yep.
still huge, and everyone had it, and everyone was talking about it, and everyone knew
Yep.
about it. I remember I was in 10th grade in high school, and everyone knew Def Leppard from this album,
Oh,
whether you knew them
shit.
before or not. But this thing was a massive album, and you can't deny that.
I mean, if you're a young kid and you don't know, like what Taylor Swift is now, Def Leppard was kind of
Yeah.
like, all over the radio, everybody talking about it. People who didn't know fucking music still knew who Def Leppard was. So
But the thing was, like, the first few singles just didn't catch on.
the first single was Women, and they
Women,
thought,
which
uh-oh.
is, yeah, and it was like, what the hell is this?
Yep.
And was Animal the next one? I mean, I love the song, but I don't think it really got that big. But once Pour Some Sugar on Me clicked with, I think it was in '88, it finally clicked
Yeah.
with the public. And then that album just blew up. It just blew up. It was everywhere.
Yes.
And then, every single after that was selling because they just got so big.
Yep.
And they didn't want to do that song. That was just added on like the last minute. Like,
It was the last song written.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just like kind of if that album bombed, I don't know if we'd even be talking about Def Leppard anymore.
Right.
They'd be on the same level as like almost like a Keel or a Helix, I think. One of those British metal. What's the fucking term? The new wave of British metal kind of band. So they came out in '80, and I love the first two albums. Their first two albums are great. Pyromania is a solid album too, but this thing just put them on a different level.
Yeah.
Different band altogether.
I mean, Pyromania was massive too.
It was, but not Hysteria massive.
Yeah.
This thing is just, I mean, this is the kind of album success that bands would dream about.
Right. All right, let's move on. We're at your number 3.
My number 3, I think I'm starting to get into these big 5 now.
Yep.
And this, the second album from, where the fuck is it? From White Lion, and it's Pride. And it wasn't big until almost a year after it came out when Weight finally exploded, which till this day, I will raise the volume on that song.
Yeah.
I think Vito Brada's solo in that song is unbelievable.
Unreal.
Just unbelievable. But I mean, I still like that one. Tell Me and the ballad when children cry with the singles, all good songs. Though I'm not a big fan of When the Children Cry. I'm like, I get why people like, yeah, of course you do, because it's Cr&uuml. But stuff like Hungry, the opening track is great. I think that made my opening tracks list. All Join Our Hands, Don't Give Up, Lady of the Valley is epic. I mean, this whole album is just unreal on how good it is. And I'll say it again, Vito, come back to the music industry. We need you. We need something from you, please. Just come back to us. But yeah, again, this is one of the 5 big albums from '87 that really made this genre explode.
So there's a guy now. Fuck, can't remember his name, and I feel bad. There's a guy who's been like helping me out. He's been reaching out to some musicians to see if they are up for doing interviews with me. And so he's reached out to Ricky Rocket and to Mike Tramp, and Ricky Rocket, I think he's gonna publish a book, and when he publishes this book, then he's gonna start doing interviews. Mike Tramp, his publicist, said that when he starts doing interviews, he'll let me know. So anyway, the potential to do interviews. So I just, I want to know, and I'm sure, I don't want to ask the questions that they've all been asked a million times, but this album blows up, big game, struggles, and then they come out with a phenomenal album in one Main Attraction, but bombs, and they break up. Anyway, I love this album. I thought Tell Me was one of the most ultra catchy
metal
songs of that fucking decade. And
Hmm.
it was a single, and I think it was a minor hit. I don't know. I thought it should have been a huge hit. And Wait
Yeah.
was phenomenal. And I love When the Children Cry. That was a ballad that nobody was doing it for rock bands back in that time.
And that was the song that really made this album explode. But I mean, like, yeah, like you said, Tell Me and Wait, they were pretty big, especially Wait was a
Yeah.
huge. And
Yeah.
I think I said this story on this show where uh what's the bass's name? Lomenzo.
Menzo.
They released this album, wasn't doing anything, auditioned for another band, like, hey dude, you got the job. They're in the car ready to go, and all of a sudden Wait comes on the air, and the dude's like, you're sticking with the White Lion, right? He's like, yeah, I think I'll stick around for this. And it's amazing how this didn't catch on till a year later.
Yeah.
Just, you release a kick-ass album like that and it's not doing anything, you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? And all of a sudden just exploded. But yeah, really good fucking album.
They had everything you needed. They had the pretty lead singer. I mean, Mike Tramp, all the girls were in. They had the fucking flashy, hot guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
Talented band, great songs. I mean, if any band was gonna blow up at that time, it was White Lion, and I think this album went double platinum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So unfortunately, that was like basically the last hurrah for them.
Yeah, it's so weird. I remember reading somewhere that Vito Bratta would sing his solos first and then compose them. That's why a lot of his solos you can sing along with. They're like really melodic too, and you can hear he's got a heavy Eddie Van Halen influence.
Oh,
but man, the guy can fucking play.
yeah.
Like I mean, we ever do a show like on the best guitarists from the genre, he would definitely be on the list easily.
Oh, totally.
Easily.
Totally. All right. Love that album. We're on to my number 3. And geez, I think so. I think I may have steered some people wrong because I was talking about this album recently. It's Motley Crue's Girls, Girls, Girls. And I said, well, Nikki, I said this. Nikki Sixx said that if they hadn't had the first 2 songs, Girls, 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 and Wildside as hits, that this album would have bombed. I think I was wrong. I think that was about Theater of Pain because they had Home and Smoking in the Boys Room, but otherwise that album wasn't all that great. And so here's why I think I'm wrong, because I was like, well, after Girls, 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 and Wildside, it's not all that great. Well, I go re-listen to it and I'm like, wait a minute, the fuck was I thinking? All in the Name of Rock is phenomenal. Dancing on Glass is great. I kind of like that song. You're All I Need was a kick-ass ballad, kind of a dark ballad, that actually got censored from MTV. So anyway, I do really love this album, and Girls, 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 and Wildside are still, if you're Motley Crue, you can't play a concert without those 2 songs. It went to number 2 on Billboard, 4 times platinum. And so if I talked in less than glowing terms about this album in the past, I kind of take it back, because sometimes you talk about shit as you remember it, and then you go revisit stuff and you're like, oh, hold on, I mean, some of this shit's 40 years old. So I love this album. Comes in at number 3. Motley Crue, Girls, 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 phenomenal.
Yeah, again, this is one of those 5 albums that made this genre big.
Yep.
Like you said, the first 2 tracks, they're great songs. I mean, that's classic Motley Crue.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of decent songs, and then All in the Name of Rock, I think, is a good one.
Yep.
But the bad ones are really bad.
Yeah, there's some shit. I mean,
yeah, I think that's the big issue with this album, where it's not just duds. It's fucking floaters left in the toilet 3 days later. You're like, what the shit? Nona, what the fuck is that? It's about his dead grandmother or some shit. But the song stinks.
Something like that.
The song stinks. It's like, why'd you waste space with that? I don't mind the cover of Jailhouse Rock. For some reason, they put that live track on there, but that's not too bad either. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe I got to revisit it or something, because between that and the previous album, Theater of Pain, if they took the best tracks and put it into one album, it would have been a kick-ass, Motley Crue album. But there's a lot of duds in both those albums. That's
Well,
cocaine, taking effect at that point.
yeah, and heroin if you're Nikki,
Whatever the fuck they were putting there, about shooting up, was it whiskey
yeah,
or
shooting
Jack? So
Jack
they shot up
Daniels.
Jack Daniels. Like, the
Yeah,
fuck are you guys doing?
yeah. I mean, I drank the shit out of some alcohol, and I never thought of injecting it. So
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you have made enough money to say, fuck it, what the stuff that's out there isn't good enough. Let me try different methods to get myself fucked up faster, or whatever the hell they were doing. Like,
you,
how none of them are dead is beyond me. And we know Nikki Six died briefly,
yeah.
but how they're all still around, I don't know. But I don't get it.
You know what they say? Live fast, die young, leave a good-looking corpse.
Yeah, but they they live
Unfortunately, none of
fast.
them died. No,
Yeah, which is just startling.
yeah.
How?
All right.
I don't know. They're putting so much shit in their bodies. Unbelievable.
All right. We are on to your number two.
All right, my number two. I at the time when this came out, when I got this album, was my favorite band. Van Halen was, but this I was really big into these guys in high school, and that is Whitesnake's self-titled album. Depending where you got it on the planet, sometimes it's called 1987. This is the band that got me into Whitesnake. I saw Still the Night on Headbangers Ball and was like, what the fuck? Holy shit, I gotta get this album. I mean, Tawny Katane also helped out with that. I'm sorry, I think she looked better in that one than in Here I Go Again.
Right.
But I mean, that was one of the singles. Obviously, Here I Go Again was a single. Still, I said Still, and Is This Love? Give Me All Your Love. Those are the big hits from it. But I mean, the deeper tracks, Children of the Night is killer. Bad Boys, Straight for the Heart, Crying in the Rain. I mean, this is just a fantastic album that Coverdale should be thanking John Sykes for every day he wakes up in the morning, because this is just killer, and that's all on Sykes.
Yes. And
Great album.
I was like, and I've said this before, like the follow-up only went platinum after this one going 8 times platinum. I
Yeah.
said, what's karma for letting John Sykes write all these fucking songs and then you kick him out of the band before the tour even starts?
I know. This
So
is about when Whitesnake first started. It was a blues based rock band. I
totally.
love that stuff, because what I would do when I was a teenager, I get an album. If they had a back catalog, went out and bought the rest.
Yeah.
And I was deep into Whitesnake when I was in high school, because I love the old school stuff. I think it's still kick ass. It's great blues rock. It's not blues rock like, oh, we're in the bayou with the slide guitar and the steel guitar, like Cinderella did for Heartbreak Station.
Yeah.
More like a kind of a Deep Purple, blues influence type thing.
Yep.
And then by Slide It In, David Coverdale kind of started making his own thing.
Yep.
And the rest of the band's like, hey, look, we used to be a band. What's going on here? And then by this album, he was throwing people out left and right. I don't know if anybody on the album even toured for the album.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And you look at the videos, none of the guys are there. They're like, all of a sudden you got all these different people to come in. I guess he was thinking, I'll be the star. All the money comes to me, and I'll hire guys. Or I mean, he hired quality guys.
Yeah.
But ever since this album, it's just been a revolving door of different musicians all the time. And it's more like the David Coverdale project. But I'm not going to deny how kick ass this album is.
Totally. And I for that album to go 8 times platinum, and then the follow-up, which still came out in 89 at the height of metal, to only go 1 time platinum. I think he fucked up. You have this phenomenal, and man, I mean, I would hope when they recorded it, they knew. But to then just get rid of everybody, I mean,
he didn't want to record it. He was going to call it quits. He was ready to bail. Like, I'm done. Whitesnake is over. And then they said one more album. I think Geffen told him, give us another album.
Yeah.
Their biggest album ever.
So yes, I love that album, and I just always been pissed about Sykes. But speaking of Tawny Katane, if you have never seen the movie Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks in it, Tawny Katane is like the girl he's gonna marry in that movie. It is so fucking funny. Drugs to the left, Hookers to the right. So check that movie out. It's hilarious.
But if you, there's also another movie she was in. Oh shit, was it Ouija board or witchcraft or something? I can't remember the name now. There's a scene where you see it all. She's just coming out of the shower, and you're just like, oh, okay, I see why Dave's into this.
All right, we are on to my number two. And we kind of hinted at something about this band earlier when we were talking about 70s bands that for some reason, you know, kind of died in the late 70s, early 80s, and then exploded back in you know the mid to late 80s. You had Alice Cooper coming back. I mean, Kiss kind of made a comeback because they were dying in the late 80s. Ozzy comes back after, you know, after Sabbath blows up and becomes even more massive in the 80s. And Aerosmith with the album Permanent Vacation becomes bigger than they were in the 70s, you know? And this is, I mean, Steven Tyler said, shit, he snorted more cocaine than the entire country of Peru could provide. So,
Oh
they,
God.
you know, they broke up. Joe Perry went on to do some solo albums. They get some new guitar players. They released some albums. In '85, they came back with an album called "Done with Mirrors" that I like. I don't know if you know, it's in underground circles. A lot of people talk highly of it.
Yeah.
In '87, they come
Is
out
that
with
the one without Joe Perry on it?
no, that one's got Joe Perry on it.
It's one. I think might be one
Before
before
that
that.
was and now I can't remember the name of it, but I'm
I
sure
can't think of it.
Done with Mirrors had Joe Perry. But Permanent Vacation, they get outside songwriters, and I think Desmond Child made an appearance in the songwriting on Permanent Vacation. And whatever they did, it worked. This album goes to
Mhm.
number 11, goes 5 times platinum. And so today I was revisiting it, like going, okay, what songs do I want to? So there was a ton of hits, but Ragdoll, Dude Looks Like a Lady was a huge hit. It's apparently about Vince Neil from Motley Crue. Um, Hangman Jury, I love the song
Good one.
Vacation. Magic Touch. And like really just straight ahead pop metal, pop rock. You know, they weren't going vicious and sleazy. It was just good pop metal. And then Mr. Ballad, I love the ballad Angel. And I know Steven Tyler and Joe Perry basically disavowed that song. It was written by somebody else. They didn't consider themselves ballad band to be a ballad band until obviously in their next albums. That's all they
Yeah,
did
that didn't
was
last long.
ballads. You know, on Pump, they had What It Takes, Janie's Got a Gun, which I really like Janie's Got a Gun. On Get a Grip, Amazing and Crying. That's
Yeah.
they started to lose me on Get a Grip. But
Hmm.
loved Angel. I loved this album. It blew up. It brought Aerosmith back from the brink. They were one of the biggest bands of this genre once this album came out.
Yeah, and I had this on my list, and you got all pissy eyed about it, so I had to give it to you.
Because you
I'm
took
surprised.
fucking Dokken, you Great White, White Snake,
Fuck
White
yeah, I did.
Lion.
Yeah,
I
I
asked for
did.
one
Moving
fucking album.
on. But I haven't listened to. I don't know if I've ever listened to the whole album in its entirety, and I definitely haven't put it on in probably 30 years. So when I had it on, I had it on my list because, like you said, this was Aerosmith's big comeback.
Yep.
And if you look at the band and talk to fans, you have old Aerosmith before this album, and the drug fueled Aerosmith, and then there's commercial Aerosmith after this album forward. And I personally, I like the stuff before, you know, the drug fueled Aerosmith. I love way more.
Right.
But I put this album on. I can't remember, it was this morning or yesterday going to work, and I'm sitting there listening to it, going, "That's a good song. That's a kick-ass tune. All right, that's a good one.
Yep.
I like this one. Oh, Angel Skip. I can't listen to that one anymore. I just can't listen to that one anymore." But also, it's the first time I think I've listened to this album with a bassist ear. Listening, I can't remember the bassist's name now. Fuck, I was
Tom
look it up,
Hamilton.
and I can't remember. Yes.
Tom Hamilton.
And the stuff he's playing, it's just like, this is some tasty stuff. He's not going crazy. It's not complex lines, but like, dude looks like a lady on the chorus. He's playing along with the vocals, which bassists usually don't do.
Right.
And I'm listening to this going, I can't believe I haven't listened to this album in so long. And it's a solid album. And I forgot it went 6 times platinum. I thought it was like 2 or 3 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, this thing resurrected their career. I mean, they had the cover with Run DMC of the Walk This Way, which is like, okay, it's 80s.
Right.
But that brought them back, and they went back in the studio and put this thing out. And it's like, yeah, it resurrected Aerosmith to now, yeah, the commercial sounding, they're pumping out ballads left and right type thing. Like you said, the Angel, Crying, amazing. I'm missing one from Pump. I can't remember. James Got a Gun. And that fucking one from the Armageddon movie. Don't want to miss a thing. That's all they did then. It just ballad after ballad after ballad. You're like, God damn it. Get back on the cocaine and put out another Draw the Line or something. Come on. God damn it. But yeah, I mean, just put them back on the map.
So, okay. That ends our number 2. Now we're on to the number 1s, and we agreed that we're not each going to have a number 1. It is the easiest call to make on almost any one of these lists that Appetite for Destruction is the best album of 1987, is the number 1 album, and maybe up there, maybe the number 1 album of this genre, and maybe the number 1 album of the fucking 80s. Who knows?
Yeah.
So you know, the thing came out in 87. In 89, it was still in the top 5 on Billboard. It went 18 times platinum. It's the biggest selling debut album of all time. It completely changed the scene. We went from 86, everybody being pop metal and pretty boy, to 87, all of a sudden, okay. Now, I mean, that shit was still kind of big, but Guns N' Roses started a completely new thing. You know, the biker look, the shit. We Are Dangerous. You know, when we come to your town, lock up your daughters, close the liquor cabinets, and put your dog on birth control, because Guns N' Roses is here, and it's gonna get fucked up. And it was like the Stones and Aerosmith reincarnated for the 80s, and you can't deny this album.
Yeah, this is the elephant in the room. There's no way you can have a list of 1987 and not put this album on it. This thing was massive. Those of you that weren't around, you can't comprehend how big this album was. And they literally made a career off of it. I mean, they only released 4 singles off this one, and I forget the first one. It's So Easy. Is that the first one? I had it here too. Shit.
Well, we know Jungle, Sweet Child.
It's So Easy.
Paradise City.
Yeah, It's So Easy was the first single, and nothing. I don't remember a video for it, hearing it, but I remember seeing at like 2 a.m, Welcome to the Jungle, going, what is this?
Yep.
I got to get this album.
Yep.
And it just, I mean, a year later, it was the most massive album, like you said, of the decade. I mean, Sweet Child of Mine propelled it to this unbelievable status. And then Paradise City, a great tune. And they were just everywhere. I mean, you could not go listen to the radio like hearing a Guns N' Roses song. You couldn't watch MTV without them, either the video being played, them being on the news for something. The award, I remember one award show, I forget which one it was. It was Duff, and I believe Duff McKagan, and was it Steven Adler? Just totally plastered. Oh my God. I remember watching it going, oh, cool, it's Guns N' Roses. And my mom is just like, what are these 2 fucking losers doing on TV? That's embarrassing. I'm like, no, it's rock and roll. Looking back at it, you're like, that's a problem. Right. But as a kid, you're like, fuck yeah. I wouldn't say they were bad boys of rock and roll. They went well past that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they just went past it. They looked like they if they breathe in your face, you get hepatitis. They had dirty needles in their back pocket. I
Yep.
mean, it was just something that was unexpected and like almost like a breath of fresh air, like you said. The lace and the pastel colors, the pink guitars, throw all that shit out.
Yep.
It's about being a tattooed biker that's pounding beers for breakfast, shooting up for lunch, and possibly ODing for dinner time. It's just how none of them are dead is beyond me too.
Oh,
I don't understand how they made it through.
well,
But yeah, I mean, aside from the singles, you had songs like Out to Get Me, Night Train, Anything Goes, and probably easily my favorite GNR song, Rocket Queen.
yep.
And top to bottom, this whole album is, I still think this album's, I don't play it as much as I used to,
Right.
but this is a phenomenal album and just made a mark that nobody expected.
And you know, maybe controversial, in my opinion, they've been kind of shit since.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know some
But
people love the Illusion albums. I thought they were a big disappointment. I
I
actually
mean,
liked the punk covers album, The Spaghetti Incident, but that's not original songs.
yeah.
Covers. Chinese Democracy sucked balls, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that was it. But I mean, I think that's is an attest to how big this the Appetite of Destruction was.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, again, they were every. I mean, from about 88 to about 92, they were the biggest band on in the world,
oh, absolutely.
easily.
And they
And
are still living off that album.
yes, I
They
was gonna
still
say all
played
that came from
massive
this.
concerts because of Appetite for Destruction.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep.
And so, and so you look back, they were young, they were hungry, they were dangerous, two guitars, bass, and drums. And now I saw them in 2023. There's like fucking 10 people on stage, keyboard players,
Yeah,
maraca
yep,
players and shit. And it was a big bloated mess. But 2 weeks ago, I saw Steven Adler, and uh he's got a band of kids, and they basically play all of Appetite for Destruction and then a few other Guns N' Roses songs, and it just reminded me of what they used to be. it
yeah,
was it was so phenomenal. They had a vocalist that just shredded it, and I'm like, why did Axel, I mean, you can't get that much money and that much fame without it changing you. But I wish he could see how Guns N' Roses looks. And like Chinese Democracy, big and bloated and full of all this
yeah.
shit, when all anybody wants him to do is put out another heavy guitar rock record like Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah, I with that there's a few missing pieces. Izzy's gone. He was a
And
big part of that.
I think
I've
it,
said
I
this.
think Izzy was one of the huge, because Izzy was the rhythm guitar player. Slash got all the notoriety, but Izzy was the one who was coming up with that fucking rhythm that was just
Yeah,
drawing you in.
yeah,
Oh, totally.
and the fact they booted Steven Adler in a shitty way too,
Yeah.
because he was just all fucked up. And they're like, "Nah, here, write you a check for 20 grand, goodbye." And
Yep.
his mom saw that, like, "Nah, nah, nah,
Yeah.
we're gonna fight this. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
You're the biggest." But I think when he was gone too, the way he played drums, that caveman kind of
Yep.
attitude. But it was all of them, though. I
Yeah.
mean, like Slash is. I think Slash got better as a guitarist as time went on.
Yep.
But he's good. Like you said, Izzy's a solid rhythm guitar player. Duff McKagan is, I think, an underrated bass player. No one
Yep.
really talks about him. He's got some killer stuff going on in those
Yep.
songs, especially this album. Already said Steven Adler and Axel. It was lightning in a bottle, and they never captured that again.
Right.
And I saw them on the Use Your Illusion tour with Metallica in 91, 92. I forget the exact year. Worst show I saw in my life.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I didn't see, because Faith No More opened. We didn't go in because we're hanging out in the parking lot. Metallica kicked ass. That was the second time I saw them. And then it was like a good 2 hours before Guns N' Roses went on. So now you're just sitting there like, what the fuck? So already you're already getting pissy because you're waiting for the band to come on.
Yep.
And I think Axel changed outfits after every song. Slash was just playing guitar to fill in the space, and it got to a point where it just dragged. You know, like, what the shit is this? All my friends I went with, they left, and me and one of my other friends, Eddie, were just hanging. He's like, "Well, let's go." I go, "No, I paid for this fucking thing. I am gonna see every goddamn song. I don't care if it completely sucks. I want to walk out of this place and say why it sucks." And it was terrible. And I remember the next day, my friend who went with me, his brother was like, "Oh, why don't you get me a ticket? I want to see them." We said, "We saved you the money. It's not worth it."
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, I'm getting a ticket. I'm going to see Guns N' Roses." I think they played like 3 songs. Axl got pissed off and left the stage. Show over. And we're like, "Told you, dude. Told you." But you look at it's right before they really blew up when they did that show at the Ritz and it was aired on MTV. That was that was Guns N' Roses, and that I think is the thing you wanted them to recapture and never really did. Just 5-piece straight up rock band. Here we are in your face, kicking ass on a small stage. And you're right. Once they got big, and when was the Axl's had? I think Axl was the real issue.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable album.
Yep.
Has to be on this list.
It's one of those albums that'll be talked about forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Grand scheme of not just rock, but in music, that everything changed and it was a worldwide phenomenon. All right. That brings us to the end of 1987. So what did we miss? There's got to be some, I'm hoping that we missed something. You can let us know in the comments. Tell us where we fucked up. We probably didn't.
We didn't fuck up, no.
We didn't.
Or tell us that Guns N' Roses is in hair metal. All right, guy.
Yeah. Brian, thanks again for being on the show, man. It's always
Thank you for having me on. Always a blast. Like I always say, catch me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at HB Basement. Always talking music. My show on Stationhead. Download the app. I'm on every Friday. If you miss it on Friday, there's recordings of all the shows. Hear these deep tracks. Not Welcome to Jungle. Maybe Rocket Queen instead. But yeah, definitely check it out. And thanks again for having me on again.
Absolutely. Hey, comment, like. I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode. Would love to hear if you have anything that you would like us to talk about. Future episodes. Once we get done with this series, we'll be moving on to different topics. We won't be talking about 20 bands. Maybe we'll, narrow it down a little bit more. But hey, whatever you do, I'm just glad that you're here, that you take some time to watch what we do, is awesome. So with that, my name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Till the next episode comes out, take care.